Hi, this is John Crow. This PowerPoint presentation is on estate planning. So before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself and my background. My name is John Crow. I'm an attorney here in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I've been practicing law for about 10 years. In 2019, I formed Crow Estate Planning and Probate with the idea and with the design to be a little bit different than your typical law firm. We only practice in three areas of law: estate planning, probate, and business planning. So we're a little bit different in the sense of a lot of other firms focus on anywhere from criminal to personal injury to bankruptcy, on down the line. We really wanted to narrow our focus and concentrate on these three areas because we believe that this concentration and this focus allows us to better serve our clients. We have a greater depth of knowledge in these areas, and that we're able to help them successfully navigate some of the tricky issues that can come about with these three areas. So let's get started with first asking, what is an estate plan? Well, an estate plan is essentially a plan for how your affairs will be handled in the event of your death or incapacity. If you can't manage your affairs, who's gonna do that for you? So some of the questions it will ask are, who's going to be in charge of your assets? So if you develop dementia or Alzheimer's, who's going to pay the nursing home bills? Who's going to write checks? Who's going to pay the property taxes? Those are questions that would be answered in an estate plan. Who's going to manage your health care? Who do you want to be in charge of making decisions for your health should you be unable to make them? Who do you want to settle your affairs once you're gone? So this is the appointment of executor in a will, or if you have a revocable trust, who's going to be your successor trustee? Who essentially do you want to be in charge of your stuff should something happen to you? Who's going to distribute the assets? Who's going to pay off the debts? Those are questions, again, that are answered by an estate plan. And finally, how do you want your assets to be distributed? Do you want them to go to certain people? Do you want certain other people to be excluded? These are questions that an estate plan would also answer. So who needs an estate plan? Well, everyone needs an estate plan. It's not just for the wealthy. If you don't have an estate plan, you're not taking control of your own life. You're not saying where your assets go at your death. You're not saying who you want to be in charge of your assets should you be unable to make decisions for yourself. An estate plan makes your wishes clear. It says, I want this person to be my executor. I want this person to be my power of attorney. So it points out people, and it names people who you want to be in charge of your affairs. Through estate planning, use of trust and other devices, you can protect your family and preserve assets. So one of the things that we see a lot, especially nowadays, are people who are going through divorces or have drug addictions or alcohol addictions, whose children may have these issues, and they want to make sure that these people that they love are taken care of, but they also want to protect them from themselves and their situations. So the use of trust in a lot of ways is a very important estate planning tool, and it really helps protect your family, ensures that those assets are protected. So an estate plan is especially important if you have some of these conditions listed here on the page. So having a spouse who is not comfortable handling financial matters. This is something we see sometimes where husband and wife will come in, and one of the spouses will be the primary person handling the financial matters for the family. They know where the money is kept. They know where the money is invested. They're the ones that pay the bills every month. And the other spouse simply lets them do that and has no clue as to, or very little idea as to what goes on financially. And so they are nervous if the person or the spouse who is making those decisions, if they pass away, who's going to handle my affairs now? I'm not used to doing it, and they have a concern about that. So an estate plan would be critical in those circumstances because you could form a trust, you could take other measures to make sure the spouse who does not handle financial matters regularly has some help and is being looked after. So having children under the age of 18, also very critical to have an estate plan. Minor children cannot inherit in the state of Tennessee. So if you have a child who's under the age of 18 and you pass and they inherit money, they legally cannot. So someone has to go to be appointed guardian for the child, and that can take some time and certainly some money to get set up, and it's generally not an ideal way to handle an inheritance for a child. Best way to do that is set up some kind of minor's trust, where you appoint a trustee for the child to be able to manage those assets until they reach a suitable age. If you have significant wealth, certainly an estate plan is absolutely critical, because you may need some tax planning potentially, and you certainly want to make sure that your wealth that you've gained in your lifetime, that you've accumulated, is distributed properly and taken care of at your death. Owning property in more than one state. This is something we see a lot. People have beach houses, people have lake houses, vacation homes in other states, or have inherited property from their parents who passed away in other states. That is an estate plan is very important for that. If someone dies and has property in another state other than Tennessee, you're going to have to go through probate in that state, other states. So if you have for example, if you have a lake house in Kentucky and your primary residence is in Tennessee, you're going to have to go through probate in Kentucky to distribute that lake house in Kentucky to the beneficiaries of your estate. If you own a business, very important to have a good estate plan in place. A lot of times, a good business plan on operating agreements can help determine where shares of business, stock of business will go at your death, that there's buyout provisions, planning with life insurance, those type things. Business succession plans are very important if you own a business. And certainly if it's a family business or sole proprietorship, you may want to say where the business goes at your death. Having a concern about financial privacy. If that is a concern for you, a revocable trust may be a good idea. If you have to go through probate at your death, then there is a potential that your assets could be listed publicly, and that may be something that you don't want to have to happen. I will tell you that frankly, most of the time that is not the case, but it certainly is a possibility that your assets could be displayed on inventory and accounting could be filed, all part of the public record with the probate court or the chancery court here in Montgomery County or the surrounding counties in Tennessee. So just consider the financial privacy if that is a concern for you. A revocable trust or living trust may be a good option for you. So how do you start planning for your estate? How do you start doing an estate plan? Well, the first thing I'd do is do an inventory of your assets. What are they? Real estate, what state are they in? How are they titled? Is critical to real estate. Do you and your wife own the property as tenants by the entirety, meaning that you own it together with the right of survivorship? Or does one spouse own the property to the exclusion of the other? So I'll take a look at your real estate, look at the deed. That's very important. Your bank accounts, again, how they're titled. What bank accounts are there? Are there any in one spouse's name versus the other spouse's name? Are there beneficiaries on the accounts? That's something I'd find out about. Investment accounts, same thing. How are they titled? Are there beneficiaries on the accounts? Retirement, 401ks and IRAs. Are there beneficiaries? Contingent beneficiaries are important for those retirement policies as well. Do you have life insurance? If so, how much is it? Who's the beneficiaries on those accounts? Significant personal property, such as collections like coin collections, stamp collections, personal property collections that are important to you. If you collect, if you collect Hummel figurines or something, those are collections that may be very important to you, and you may want to pass down through a will to one of your kids or to a significant loved one. Again, how the assets are titled, critically important, especially for bank accounts, real estate, investment accounts. Do you own the property jointly? Are there other owners on there? or is it something that's just in your name only? And then finally, what are your debts? Do you have significant debts? Are there mortgages on the property? Do you have student loans out there? Do you have any significant credit card debts? All things that you should take stock of when first starting your estate plan. So the next step in forming an estate plan is really to assemble a team. Uh, Consider talking to an attorney, a lawyer, an accountant, a financial planner, an insurance agent. All of these professionals will help give you guidance as to your overall estate plan. Obviously, a lawyer will talk to you about wills and powers of attorney and trust and those type things, and kind of get the skeleton of your plan together. An accountant will help you with tax issues. A financial planner will help you make good investments, and an insurance agent can help you with life insurance needs or other insurance needs you may have with your estate plan. So some of the estate planning documents, basic documents that you'll need to consider adding to your estate plan. Certainly the foundation of a good estate plan is a basic will. Obviously a will says who gets your stuff when you die, and then who's going to be appointed your executor. A revocable living trust is certainly optional. It's one way to form an estate plan that would help avoid probate, help keep some of your assets private. Certainly a good tool to use under certain circumstances and based upon your preference. A financial power of attorney or a general power of attorney appoints someone to be in charge of your finances should you be unable to make decisions for yourself financially. A medical power of attorney is someone who you're appointing an agent to be in charge of your healthcare decisions. So who's going to do that if you cannot make healthcare decisions for yourself? And then a living will essentially is your advance directives as far as whether you would like to be an organ donor and whether you would like to stay on a feeding tube or have artificially provided food and water to you should you be in a state in which you are going to die. It's a terminal state. So these are the basic estate planning documents that you should at least consider when forming an estate plan. So one of the things that you need to keep in the back of your mind when you're forming your estate plan is the fact that your circumstances now will likely be different in 5 years down the road. They will definitely be different in 10 years in the future, and they'll probably be drastically different 20 years down the road. So your estate plan that you form today may be appropriate, 100% appropriate for you, but 20 years from now, it may not be. And you want to take a look at it, your plan about every 5 years. Look at your will, look at your powers of attorney. If you have a revocable trust, take a look at that. Do they fit with your circumstances in your life right now? People may have passed away that you've named as executor or trustees. So you need to update those things. You may have a son or daughter who has special needs, and you need to plan for them now versus how they were 5 years ago. So consider just updating it about every 5 years, looking at it at least, bringing it out of the safe at home or out of the bank out of the lockbox at the bank. Just review it and just update it as you need to.